Today the Inspos are going to bring you a short little video series on some basic first aid kits or stuff along those lines that you can find on Amazon or other easy to find places. We're going to start off with the MediTac, or it's also called the Elite First Aid IFAK kit. It's available on Amazon. They sell for about 55 bucks. What I'm basically going to do is I'm going to run down what I feel about this pouch, its contents. I'm going to show you a couple options that you can spend a few more dollars to make it a lot more effective in the field, and then give you my other general impressions. First of all, we're going to start with just the pouch. It has some Molly Pals webbing on it, standard stitching. It's not fantastic, it's not great, but it's not horrible by any means. It's standard. But the big issue I have with it is I actually got the olive drab model because it was supposed to match most of my gear. But to me, this is not olive drab. You can kind of see what it looks like here, but like this is a high-speed gear, coastal leg rake. This is their kind of olive drab, their foliage color. You can see that's quite a bit off. Then if you just take a cheaper one, like Condor, their bag, I mean, you can see this is green. This is not even close. This is actually closer to me to almost the box it came in. Like, it's a tan with a hint of green. It's not really olive drab to me. But, so that's kind of an issue for me, but it might not be an issue for you. It might even match your gear better. But if you open it up, there's some basic contents. It's got kind of your standard stuff. It's got the quick clot sponge. It's available. You can get it for, I don't even know how much. I think it's $12 online. This is also going to show you, like, if you price out each individual component, could you make a kit for less? So this is about 12 bucks. Then you got a 4-inch Israeli bandage. It's the actual one, not some generic one like I've seen in some kits, which is kind of nice. It's the 4-inch. It's sterile until 22, so that's not too bad. And those guys go for about 8 bucks. They're actually pretty cheap and effective for what they do. Then you got 2 packages of H&H compressed gauze. It is the 4.5 by 4.1 yards, 4.5 inches by 4.1 yards. You get 2 of those. The only ones I was able to find were you get 4 of them for 15, so let's just call it $7.58 bucks for the 2. This thing I don't understand. You get a single-use packet of Blistex lip balm, medicated lip balm for cold sores and stuff. I don't really see why it's in there, but I guess it doesn't have that much weight. I'd rather have it like a triple antibiotic or something along those lines, but it's included. I don't know how much these goes for. It's got a roll of the cloth medical tape. It's only a couple, I don't know, maybe $2, something like that. Nothing too crazy, just standard stuff. It's got a single pair of nitrile examination gloves. It comes in these little envelopes, but I don't think it's sterile, but if you're in the field, I guess it doesn't matter that much. It comes with a basic pack of the cheapy little shears, medical shears. This is actually the first thing I'd upgrade because I hate these things. They are pretty heavy, they're pretty weak, and they don't cut very well. I would upgrade to something like these guys. These are the Klaus titanium ones. They're lighter, they're stronger and sharper, they're better in every way, and they cost like 10 bucks. I would upgrade to these. Then you got a cheap, super cheap tourniquet. It's the kind with the quick release buckle. I think you can get them online. I don't know if you can get them on Amazon, but you can get them on like a medical store for like $2. They're kind of gimmicky, but they're better than latex in my opinion. They have the stretch material, and then you put it on whatever limb you need, and then you pull it tight, as tight as you need, and you just keep applying the tightness until it cuts off the circulation. Make sure there's no pulse wherever you're trying to cut off. And so you just keep pulling it, kind of latches in place, and then when you need to take it off, there's a little button right here. You just push it and it opens up. So it's easy, but it's $2. I would upgrade this one pretty quickly. And then inside you got a triangle bandage. This is, I don't remember, it's like $2. They're cheap. It comes with 2 little safety pins. Triangle bandage, basic stuff. And then you get some self-adhesive roll, and I think I found those for about $5.50. So if you actually take it all together, the closest thing I find to a pouch like this, even though it's not the color I want, is about 15 bucks. So if you add it all together, all this gear goes for about it's $63. It's $48 if you discard the pouch. I would personally think you want to get a better pouch than this. So here's the whole contents of the kit completely laid out. If you add it all up together, if you would have bought each of these individually, it would come to about 60 bucks. So by buying it as a kit, you save $5. If you have none of your own gear, it's a good way to start out. You can take what you get here and pick and choose what you like and what you want to upgrade, like take these guys out, replace them with these. You can cater to your own needs. Like if you want a strict IFAK where it's just, I'm dying, I need to stop the blood loss or something, you can make it a little less. If you want to make it more of an all-purpose, like I got a boo-boo, I want some more Band-Aids, you can do what you want with it. But one of the first things I would do is, I don't like this pouch. The color doesn't match for me, so it's a no-go right there. but it's also just kind of a general cheapy pouch. You can get a lot better. You can get like a Condor EMT rip-away pouch for like 25 bucks. I like those a lot because you can actually rip them away and take them off to work on them instead of having them attached to your body and you need to pull everything out that way. You can get like a fat pack if you want to go minimalist, like a VanQuest fat pack. It's up to you. One thing I really don't like is I like to have just a personal preference, some sort of Velcro somewhere, because I like to put, I know it's not super important, but I like to put my blood type and then also that I don't have any known allergies. It's just something I like to do on my kits. You also can, if you want to, you know, put like a blaze red or something, medical cross to like show people it's a medical kit. You can't do anything here. It's very limited unless you want to do your own stuff. So I'd get rid of that. I already told you, upgrade your shears. Things I would include is, I like having 2 tourniquets, so maybe it'll be okay to keep this one, but I'd get rid of it. Get a cat tourniquet or SWAT-t tourniquet. Get something legitimate, military grade, strong, a legit real tourniquet. It doesn't add that much more weight, and these are the kind of things that'll save your life. Don't waste the money. These are 20 bucks, 25 bucks, depending on where you get them, so it's worth it. I guess depending on what you're doing. If you're getting shot at, I like Halo chest seals. They're, I think, 15 to 20 bucks. They fold in half. You just can shove them in one of the pockets. It's useful. Not really necessary for all people, but it's something you can add. I like nasal pharyngeal airways. They're like 8 bucks, and they're pretty useful in a couple different situations. I like these over the oral kind. I think they're a little bit easier to put in as long as they're unconscious. And if they ever do wake up, it's easier on the patient, in my opinion. They're not gagging or trying to rip it out as much with the nasal compared to if they do oral. If you want, these are kind of hit and miss with some people. These are the decompression pens, needles. I got this for 10 bucks. It's called an ARS release system. So what you do with this is, some people are afraid that they'll use this and they'll kill the guy. They'll stab him in the heart, put air in there, and have an air embolism and kill him. I'm going to do a video in the future kind of on my philosophy on medical, but generally what's going to happen is if their lungs and their chest is getting crushed because they got air in there, they're going to die anyway, like if you're in the middle of nowhere. And if you happen to kill them with the needle, then who cares, they're going to die anyway. But if you know just a little bit of the basics, just don't put it in the freaking heart, you might be able to save them lives. I mean, you can die pretty quickly from that kind of injury. And if you're in the middle of a forest or a shooting range and your closest hospital is over an hour away, it's better to have something like this and possibly kill them than to not have it and just let them die. I'll go over that more in the future. But it's 10 bucks, and even if you don't know how to use it, maybe someone else will. It weighs nothing, so I would just put it in your kit. If you want to make it more of a first aid kind of thing, you can throw in some like steri strips, different sizes. I like these a lot more than sutures. Sutures are very hard to do on someone who's unconscious and someone who has like proper anesthesia. If someone's struggling in pain, I don't like the idea of sutures, and most people, unless they're very practiced, can't do sutures right, and it's going to cause more trouble than a steri strip. Steri strips, if you do it right, work just as well as sutures in most circumstances, unless you're talking like deep tissue trauma, which, get into the hospital, you're not going to be able to do deep tissue sutures. Chances are, unless you're a professionally trained medic. This is a beginning kit. I'm not going to show you how to do that kind of stuff. I see a lot of people add these guys in, hemostats, either 1 or 2 into the kits to kind of stop artery bleeds or whatever. I don't really think they're important. I do keep them in my bigger kits, but for an IFAK, if you're bleeding from an artery, this ain't gonna matter too much. Just throw on a tourniquet. It's a lot quicker and a lot more efficient. You don't need to worry about damaging it. Just put it on, get them to the hospital, or get them to someone who actually knows what they're doing, and they'll treat the wound. Don't be trying to just find the artery up in the leg and crunch it. It's just not as effective, but if you want it, go for it. I like actually throwing a little bit of Gorilla Tape in there. I think you can use it a little bit more efficiently than medical tape. If you're putting something on there and you don't want it to get off, put this on there. You can almost use this like a suture. It has a lot more use to it. I don't know why I always throw these in my IFAKs, but I always throw in some sort of sterile scalpel. I just like the idea of having a super sharp sterile blade. I never had to use it, but I like the idea of knowing that if I needed one, I can have it. These guys are, I think you can get 10 of them for like 10 bucks or like $1 a piece or something. So it doesn't add, and they weigh nothing other than the blade. But it's just something that might add a little more effectiveness to your kit. And then you can throw in something like alcohol swabs. I mean, this is like a couple bucks for 200. They're cheap as hell. it's actually more efficient to buy the more expensive ones. Like you get 50 for like $2, or you can get 200 for like $220. Get the big one and then break it out to all your many other kits. I like the triple antibiotic ointments. I don't think I would throw a full tube like this into an IFAK, but if you can get just the single-use ones, it's a little more useful if you're going for more just first aid kit compared to a trauma kit. Also at the same time, get some band-aids in there. You get a boo-boo, you can fix that up pretty easy. And other than that, I mean, you can kind of go hog wild. The big ones I would include is, if you're strictly going just to survive, I would try and throw in the Quick Clot, the Israeli bandage, nasopharyngeal airway, Halo chest seals. Throw in some kind of gauze. I'm not really sure. I mean, compressed gauze is okay. There's other options, but if you have the Israeli, hopefully that'll do the job just fine. Definitely throw in a nice tourniquet. Hit and miss on the shears. They're useful in certain situations if you can take the extra weight. I think you can always find space for them in most decent sized IFAK kits, so I would throw them in there. Triangle bandage, useful, but I don't really think it's important for here. Put it in a first aid kit, but just for if you're trying to not die, I don't really think it's necessary. Like I said, I like the scalpel. You don't need it. This isn't important. This isn't important. These guys, you got the Israeli bandage, and that should be, I mean, it's self-adherent, so you don't really need it, but if you want to do something with like the Quick Clot or something, you could use one of these. I'll just throw the cloth one on there. Gloves, I would get more than one pair and make sure they are sterile. I mean, it's useful to be sterile, but whatever. So definitely throw in some gloves. Don't need these. Definitely don't need Blistex. I mean, I guess if you really needed it, you'd be really happy you have it, but I don't care. I like the pen, but it's up to you. This, because we already have the tape and the Israeli bandage, I don't think it's important. It just takes up space. And I like steri strips. I'd throw a couple in just because I think they're very useful, and they're so thin you can find a place to put them. And like I said, don't really like hemostats. But yeah, this is your whole kit, just like this, and it has almost everything you need to kind of keep somebody or yourself alive. And let's get an actual weight on this. So here's everything I listed earlier, plus I'm just throwing in 2 packs of steri strips, and then I'm also throwing in 1 more pack of that compressed gauze because I do like having more gauze than I might actually need. It can be beneficial. But if you add all that together with the pouch that's included, it comes to about 1 pound 6 ounces, I think. Yep, just over 1 pound 6 ounces. And if you include that, if you think about it, this is 1 pound. Let's just call it 1.5 pounds because you're probably gonna have to throw some other crap in there. And this is 1.5 pounds that could save you or your friends' lives. Hopefully you can look in your gear and you can decide, do I really need this? And you can get rid of 1.5 pounds of other crap, and then you can just carry this simple little kit and you'll have almost everything you need to do work in case something bad happens. I mean, you could be the most professional person in the world and either an accident's gonna happen or some other idiot nearby could hurt you. You know, it's not always going to be your fault, and it's good to know that you can take care of almost any situation, at least long enough to get them if someone who actually knows what they're doing. So just with how this stuff I just showed you, this is kind of how I'd set it up. The only issue I really have is this is where they want you to store the tourniquet kind of here. It's kind of hard to get to. I like my tourniquet stored on the outside, but just for the sake of argument, that's what the tourniquet is. That's what you'll use first if someone's just bleeding out really bad from a wound on their extremities. But otherwise, if someone's bleeding really bad, I like to have my Israeli bandage and my clotting sponge together, because I'll rip the clotting sponge, put it on the wound wherever they need it, arm, leg, whatever. Put that down, then use the Israeli bandage to kind of reinforce it and also kind of act like a semi-tourniquet to keep pressure on. So I always use those two together. So I like the clotting sponge on top, Israeli bandage below, because if it's bad, I want to use both really quick, and if it's not so bad, I can always just, then I don't worry about them dying right away, so I can just use this. I have the gauze and the steri strips kind of together because they're both kind of sort of unimportant for most situations. I put the pen here, the needle, just because that's where it fits. There's the tape and the shears next to each other, and the shears are also pretty accessible if I do need to cut the clothing to get down to the actual wounds. The latex gloves are right here. Gloves are important for bloodborne diseases. You want to protect yourself, but most of my friends, I think I would risk some sort of disease that hopefully they don't have to get to them quicker instead of wasting the extra minute it could take to put on the gloves. I mean, it doesn't take that long, but I don't really find these super important unless it's somebody I don't know and I don't know how sick they could be. Like I said, the tourniquet's here, and then both of the halo and the nasal pharyngeal fits in that little pocket. So all of it can fit really easy, and just remember to think it through. Put things that are important and that you'll need really quickly up top, easy to get to, and then things that are a little less likely to matter, a little deeper or harder to get to. Just think it out when you set up your kit. So in conclusion, if you look at this Elite First Aid / MediTac IFAK pouch, I think it's okay. You do get your money's worth. It's only 55 bucks, and it'll get you through most things that you're likely to encounter. I have about $50 worth of my own stuff in here that especially the tourniquet, I recommend getting a better one of those. But if you talk, even then, it's only $100 for all this, and you have a very effective kit that can handle almost every situation that I can imagine myself ever encountering. And even your general layman, he can use almost all this stuff pretty easily. The hard one might be the nasopharyngeal airway, and then this decompression needle would scare some people, but at least it's in the kit for somebody to use if they needed it. And even then, like, I took a lot of stuff out of the kit. I mean, I didn't use the self-adhesive bandage, the extra gauze, or the triangle bandage, or probably a couple other things that was included in here. So if you bought it all individually, you might be able to cut that price down a little bit. It's kind of up to you. But as a starter model, if you get this kit as is, you're fine. Make your upgrades, and I think you'll have a very effective IFAK that could save you or your friend's life. And it's small, compact, pretty lightweight, and it's money well spent in my opinion. That being said, you have to remember this is an IFAK. This is something that's designed to go on a plate carrier, on a belt, on a backpack, and it's kind of designed just to keep someone alive until someone with more medical knowledge or better equipment can actually save them in the long run. It's just a short-term solution. I would call this kind of a small, medium-sized kit. There are smaller kits that I would call ones that you can fit into a cargo pocket. Those ones I think are not really designed for major trauma. Those ones I include stuff like bandages. They're just little cuts if you're going bushcrafting. And then if you want to go one step farther, I would call my true mediums. They're the ones I typically keep in rolls or just little kind of like toiletry bags. They are able to handle more things, but they're kind of more first aid based. They're not designed to stop bullet hole trauma or something along those lines. They're just designed to kind of, things everyone's likely to encounter. And then you have the super large ones, which are the ones that are basically walking hospitals. And so what you kind of want is you need to think about what size and what you're going to do. This is just for pretty much if I am at the gun range with wearing my plate carrier and me or someone else gets shot accidentally, negligent discharge, someone else has a negligent discharge and happens to go off in our leg or something, or we also shoot in a lot of areas with rocks and we've had ricochets before. It's unfortunate, but we're lucky that no one's ever gotten hit. None of our stuff has gotten hit, but we've definitely heard bullets flying over our heads. And one day we might end up catching one of those bullets, and it's nice to know that something so small I might be able to save somebody, or myself for that matter. And really, if you just think about it, an extra pound and a half, and it could be all the difference in the world. It's kind of hard. And $100, it's hard not to justify something like this. I mean, you can do worse, you can do better. I can't afford every kit on the market. I want to look at a couple other ones that are easily available. Just kind of, you can go out and buy them as a kit and just shove them in a pouch, and hopefully when you need it, you just bust it open and it will do its job. I'll hopefully do more of those in the future, but right now I only have plans for a few more videos. I got a couple rolls and then maybe a bag or two. So I'll show those videos in the future, so stay tuned, and hopefully you'll learn something that you can use to have the gear to save somebody else's life in the future. I know medical kits aren't as interesting or flashy as some of the other stuff that I plan on doing, like samurai fighting videos and archery, knife work, other fancy gear like knives and bags and all that fun stuff. But in my opinion, the medical kit is more important than all that stuff. It's all well and good to be good with a sword or good with a bow, but it's more important to be able to save somebody's life. And you can't just walk into the woods and use a Band-Aid to stop the bleeding of someone who got a stick shoved through the femoral artery. You need the correct gear. So if you think about it, a medical kit like this is kind of the epitome of the idea of you need to be prepared for everything so you can survive anything.